Our main character introduces himself as Toru Aban and reveals that he is a member of the S-ranked party team led by hero Sane. They are on a mission, and Toru asks a fellow member if she is okay. She confirms that she is fine. Well, let's boost their motivation so that they don't quit since they are almost done. Toru relates that they were all childhood friends who supported each other and were supposed to achieve great things together. But one day, Sane called Toru and told him that he was kicked out of the party. Toru was stunned and confused after hearing this. Lisa tells him that he should have known. Toru wonders if she is a hindrance, unable to believe what he is hearing. He asks if they are joking and tells him to understand and express it. He would be very sad if he saw his best friend die. Lisa agreed with Sane and mentioned that Toru would most likely end up in a dangerous situation at any time, emphasizing the significant difference between him and the other members. Toru was taken aback by Lisa's words, but then he noticed the ring on her hand. He was shocked to realize that the ring he saw was not the one he had given her. As he looked towards Sane, confusion washed over him as he slowly realized that he had been obstructing their enjoyment. He felt betrayed upon learning that his best friend had cheated on him with his fiancée at a time when he felt alone in the dark. Toru was unable to comprehend when all of this happened, wondering if it was clear to him now, and expressing his desire for Toru to keep his distance from them, but to continue supporting them. Toru, consumed with anger, couldn't hold back and delivered a strong punch to Sane's face while cursing. His anger is evident as he realizes his engagement to Lisa, yet he hasn't done anything about it. With a wicked smile, he encouraged Toru to raise his fist again, but before he can strike, Lisa intervenes and kicks him back, telling him to stop and rudely referring to them as trash. In disbelief, Toru watched as Lisa tossed her ring aside, made it clear that she no longer wanted anything to do with him, and urged him to stay away from them. Toru was not expecting such an event to occur. He left the party and went out into the rain, carrying the discarded ring with him. With a mounting sense of frustration, he threw the ring and punched the ground as it lay on the wet ground. In his heart, he couldn't help but question Lisa's thoughts while sleeping with Sane, as the rain finally subsided. Toru ponders his future as he examines his statistics and realizes that while he may not have outstanding stats, he does have many seemingly useless skills. Questions arose in his mind about whether he had any more powerful skills that had yet to be revealed, skills that were as great as those of San. Eventually, he began to feel of himself as a bully. When he split himself into two, his stats began to surge rapidly after reaching level 300. However, his current physical condition was unable to sustain this power. He was told that his body would be reconstructed, and he felt a mysterious energy envelop him as his physique was repaired. Toru was baffled by the sudden transformation from a reconstruction to a dragon human. He wondered about the nature of the notification and his level 300 status. He reviewed his stats and realized that he was being upgraded to the next level. He was thinking about the fact that he had an automatic skill for self-rescue that would only be revealed once he accumulated enough experience to reach the level predetermined by all the experiences he had undergone. Finally, AC Creed's hard work paid off, as he reflected on how he had worked harder than anyone else in his party. He smiled and looked up at the sky, deciding that he would embark on a world-traveling adventure to advance to the next level. According to Toru, as level 300, there was nothing to fear, and he could achieve anything he wanted. He was convinced that this was the best way to overcome the hole in his heart. With determination, he stood his ground and decided to start by visiting a country close by. Then, the scene switches to Armand, a bustling border town that Toru has managed to reach. He is fascinated by the vibrant life in the place, despite its remoteness. His focus is on the slave shop, and he enters with the realization that he is looking for a partner he can trust as a companion as we delve deeper into his situation. In our research, we discovered that a slave has a contract that obligates him not to betray his master. When Toru entered the premises, a man greeted him and inquired about what he could offer, as the slave would be bound to him forever by paying. Toru explained that he needed a companion to accompany him in battle, and did not have any specific race preferences for the recommended man, Lizard Man, to fight. And Toru asked about the price, which turned out to be 3 million. Hearing this, Toru asked to meet the man. After meeting, the man presented an elf who had no fighting experience but had the potential to become a wizard. He mentions that she may be less effective in defensive range unless Toru has trained her. Toru asks about the price, which is 25 million, but he remains silent considering his budget. The man asks about his budget, and Toru replies it's 1 and 2 million. The man then takes him to another room where he mentions that the slaves there are all worth less than 1 million. He describes them as ugly, weak, and untrained, but also suggests that they might be suitable for other purposes. Inside the cage, Toru finds a frightened-looking little girl and mentions the number 300. Toru asks about his level and the price. The person replies that it's 1.1 million. Toru questioned if it was too cheap, and the person assured him that it was the right amount by mentioning that the girl was seriously ill. And so, he approaches the girl Toru requested. Toru stated that after finalizing the contract, he would buy the child. Carrying her on his back, he drove the girl to the doctor for examination. The doctor concluded that Beast was suffering from a rare disease that was difficult to diagnose, as she had no ears or tail. However, the doctor noticed her long, narrow pupils, as well as a protrusion resembling a tail, as important signs. Toru heard this news and began to wonder if her physical abilities would improve. He also asked the doctor what steps could be taken to cure her illness. The doctor told him that they would need a potion made from the heart of the original dragon species. It would not work on the subspecies. Toru convinced the girl by telling her not to worry, because she would soon be better. He looked at the child and realized that in order for her to be useful to him, she needed to be healed first. They left the clinic determined to find a way to cure her illness. As Toru enters the dense forest, the scene shifts. He realizes that it has been 3 hours since he started walking through the forest. Along the way, he met many goblins. He takes a quick look at their levels and starts to feel scared. Toru was searching for the whereabouts of the dragon he was looking for. Suddenly, a loud roar was heard throughout the forest, signaling the presence of a dragon. Toru rushed towards the sound, while contemplating whether he could defeat the dragon. Suddenly, a giant dragon standing more than 10 meters tall appeared before him. Toru was shocked to see the colossal creature and worried about his fate. However, he summoned his courage and challenged the dragon to a fight. The dragon responded by flying up and swinging its tail, ready to attack Toru. Toru manages to dodge the dragon's tail attack, though he feels a deep sense of fear. At the moment the danger arose, Toru thought of Crazy Lisa and shouted that he was not like them. With a powerful swing of the sword, Toru managed to cut off the dragon's head and tail. His attack was so powerful that it split the boulder behind him. The dragon split into 2 as it fell to the ground after being defeated, leaving Toru surprised at the power of his level 300. When the dragon fell, Toru returned home in a bad way. He offered the potion to Kaede and asked her to drink it. When asked if he was doing this all for Kaede, Toru replied that he had already gathered the ingredients and asked the doctor to make the medicine. He emphasized that Kaede should drink it for her own good. Before going to bed, Kaede took the potion and drank it. Toru watched her with concern and saw that Kaede seemed to improve slightly. He reflected on his newfound strength within her, realizing that he had more power than he had ever imagined. Today was a surprise to him in that he did not have to think about these kinds of things before until he finally settled down. After sleeping beside Kaede, the next day he brought Naga and asked him to meet her, then asked the chef to prepare it. At first, the chef examined the meat and thought it looked like pork, but upon closer inspection, the chef realized that it was different. Toru then explained that it was actually red dragon meat, leaving the chef surprised. With the dish prepared, he made a dragon steak and a hamburger made from the meat. After tasting the steak, he was very impressed with its delicious flavor. He even admitted that his view of dragons would never be the same again. He shared the burger with a friend who was also impressed by the dragon. They tasted the aroma of the meat before going shopping for their needs, which included visiting a weapon shop. Kaede chose two iron weapons that looked a little too big for her to hold. Tor realized that, given his beast origins, it wasn't surprising that she had the ability to hold her own easily as they walked together. When Kaede suddenly stopped and glanced at a bakery, Toru noticed her interest and asked if she wanted some pastries. Initially hesitant, Kaede eventually agreed, and they enjoyed some delicious pastries together. Toru bought some pastries for Kaede, and they sat on a nearby bench. Kaede was very grateful to Toru and called him master. Toru asked her to stop calling him that, which made Kaede sad. She wondered if Toru would dismiss her, but Toru reassured her that he had no intention of leaving her and expressed his desire for Kaede to stay with him for the rest of her life. Kaede smiled, and he admitted that he might not be the best master, but emphasized that he needed Kaede. Kaede was deeply touched by his words and declared that Toru was the best master out there. She expressed her willingness to do anything for him and asked to stay with him forever. Toru blushed and admitted that he felt a little embarrassed to hear it at that time. As the light suddenly appeared, Toru felt confused and amazed at what was happening. When the event ended, Toru couldn't believe what he had just experienced. He received a notification that his limits had been breached once again, and a new skill of experienced multiplier had been added. Toru was amazed to see that his skills had been enhanced and wondered how much power he had gained now. A dense aura surrounded her which caused Kaede to fall under the pressure of being impressed into praising her master. Toru offered her his hand, apologizing for scaring her. He explained that his skills had given her more power, then checked his stats, and was surprised to see that his skill level had skyrocketed, usually around level 10, but he wondered if he had exceeded this newfound power limit, making him ponder the changes within himself. She protested, saying that she couldn't let her master do that despite her hair. Toru insisted and gave the command for her to sit, emphasizing that it was an order when Kaede sat down. Toru began to wash her head while removing his towel and noticed a strange lump on her back. Curious, he asked Kaede about her breed. Kaede replied that she was a fox. Toru reflected on the fact that he had never seen a fox like Kaede before, but he knew that they existed. He also remembers that foxes are often associated with golden fur. Lost in thought, Toru accidentally touches Kaede's chest. He immediately realized his mistake and stepped back, apologizing to her. Kaede says that it won't bother her if her master touches her, while Toru shyly looks at her and says that he will consider it when she gets older. Kaede then suggested that she needed to cut her hair as it was already too long. Toru showed that there wasn't much left to cut, and she responded that the remaining hair was her ears. Toru was surprised to find out that Kaede also has human ears. She explained that there was a theory that the gods who created the beast liked those ears, and instead they wanted to keep the humans calm. Tor playfully said that it sounded like a charm, and nodded while laughing softly. They continued cleaning. Suddenly, the common room called Toru its master, then smiled to express how much she enjoyed their day. She hoped that tomorrow would bring more pleasant moments, to which Toru would smile and agree. "Remove the arm from the base," Toru pleaded, wondering how she knew all this. She replied that she knew someone knowledgeable about the matter when they reached the first step of the journey. Encouraging Toru to give it a try, he approached the door and pushed it with just one hand. As it turned out, the door was very easy to open. Seeing this key, she congratulated him on passing the first step. They continued walking and eventually found a sword. Toru's attention was drawn to the sword, and he realized that it was a holy arm, a one-handed sword that informed him that the holy arm was known to change its shape to adapt to its owner. Toru prepared himself to take the sword and began to pull it out after applying a large amount of strength. Finally, the sword came loose, causing Toru to lose his balance and fall backward while standing. Kaede congratulated him, and he thanked her, even though he humbly mentioned that he would eventually succeed with his face turning red. He said she gave him too much praise, then pondered the fact that he hadn't received a single compliment in almost a year. Note that even Lisa never complimented Toru. Kaede suggested that they go on an adventure together, and Toru agreed. As they stepped outside, Toru mentioned their plan to go to the city, form a group, and make their debut as adventurers. The scene switches to a party where someone who has driven Toru away is enjoying a moment of pleasure with Lisa. Lisa was moaning in ecstasy, but he was disappointed with her lack of stamina. He sat reminiscing about Toru, and the expression on her face was priceless. Toru had been betrayed by the woman he loved, the person he gave the ring to, and he was now considered an idiot. It is revealed that Lisa, Nei, and Sora don't actually have romantic feelings for Toru, but rather they have alluring demon eyes, a power that allows him to forcefully lure the opposite sex, even though Toru is a perfect man in every way. Sane was jealous when Lisa, Nei, and Sora initially chose Toru over him. Now, Lisa, who initially refused to pay attention to him, was infatuated with Sane. He mentioned that he enjoyed the days when he could be close to Lisa right in front of the Toru's nose, but now he felt more content to be with her without any restrictions. He felt happy that there was no longer the weight of Toru holding him back, and pondered about the need to confront the Demon King. Finally, it was revealed that the Demon King only appears once every 100 years, usually from the demon tribe. However, sometimes he also appears among humans, realizing that he needs to seek out some sacred weapons to continue his mission. He realized that the prospect would require a lot of work, but he felt that the fame and money he might gain made it well worth it. He feels very lucky to have such a wonderful daughter, and believes that this is the best life ever, barring the most extraordinary. The next day, Sane got the shocking news that the dragon had been defeated. Someone told him about it, and Sane expressed surprise at the sudden news. He asked who was responsible for the dragon's defeat, and the person replied that they didn't know who it was. They went to investigate, and found that the dragon was dead. As the scene shifts, they show their frustration as the perpetrator punches a tree in desperation. When Lisa asks if he is angry, the perpetrator denies it and suggests that they forget about the dragon incident. He suggests that they do something exciting. However, this suggestion angered San, and she scolded the perpetrator, telling Nai to shut up. Sane pondered about who could successfully defeat the dragon, as it could not be conquered by ordinary adventurers. Although the city was at peace, Sane still continued to wonder. A few hours later, he was again surprised to find out that the sacred arm was missing. He asked where the arm was, and although Lisa tried to calm him down, Sane pushed Lisa away and warned her not to touch it. He even threatened to kill Lisa as his anger grew. He was wondering if everything was okay since Toru's departure. He suspected that Toru might be involved, but he quickly dismissed the idea as he realized that Toru could not be trusted. He was sure that they were dealing with someone more powerful, but he didn't know who in armor could defeat the Red Dragon. He also considered the possibility that the person who had taken his sacred arm was also responsible for killing the dragon, and that frustrated him. He stated that if he were to meet this person, he would resolve the issue. In anger, they stormed out and changed their plans by announcing that they would go to the ruins of Luntata. Sane believed that if he resolved this, he could build a reputation and gain recognition. As the scene changed, the party headed towards the basement of the ruins. They asked someone for directions, but the person looks confused. They said there was a prison there last month, which surprised Sane. Although Sane asked for directions, the person said there were no specific directions and advised them to keep walking forward. Although it made no sense to Sane, when they reached the basement, they were surprised. The underground prison has disappeared, replaced by a large crater that destroyed it. Then, the scene shifted to last month in Luntata, where Kaede and Toru got their adventure cards. Toru noticed that at their previous White Fang party, they had a rank of B, but now they were back down to rank B as they walked through the city. They commented on the strong smell of alcohol in the air. Toru explained that this place was known for its entertainment and alcoholic drinks. He mentioned that the key word was that he was there for it and didn't need to go to a place like that. But Toru kept walking, and Kaede mentioned she had heard about the underground prison in the city. Toru agreed and said they could visit it tomorrow. She asked what he knew about the underground space, and he replied that it was the first time he had heard of it. Toru then explained to her that there were two main reasons why adventurers explore the underground space. First, it was to collect materials and equipment from the monsters they defeated, and that's how most adventurers made a living. The second reason was to reach the core stone at the bottom of the underground space. He explained that the core stone was a valuable material, and adventurers could obtain rare skills and amazing rewards from it. As they reached the underground space, Toru suggested that since Kaede was still in recovery, they should only explore the first four. He agreed, and they entered the first four of the underground spaces. Kaede employed his magic to defeat the monster and assess its capabilities. Toru was impressed. He knew Kaede could use magic, but her skill surpassed expectations. He was even more amazed when Kaede checked her stats and found that she was already at level 15. Kaede speculated that it might be because she was next to her master, and when they reached the third floor, Kaede skillfully avoided every attack from the monsters and unleashed a powerful attack, defeating them all. She looked towards Toru, who was impressed that she had cleared all the enemies on this floor, but Kaede still felt that level 30 was not enough, and expressed her desire to become stronger. Toru asked if she was tired, and since they had gathered enough materials, he suggested they return. She agreed, and as they left, she noticed something on the floor and picked it up. She asked Toru what it was, and he explained that it was a magical storage for rare items, and mentioned that it could hold up to 100 items. Kaede asked Toru to continue exploring the dungeon, but he refused, explaining why. They were almost out of food and water, and if they didn't return, they might starve to death. He assured Kaede that there was no need to rush the situation. They stored their belongings in the magic circle and began the journey. As they reached a restaurant that praised its delicious meat, Toru wondered about their earnings that day. He realized that they had made 1.2 million coins, and he complimented Kaede on her excellent performance. When he first asked her if she wanted to eat, she initially mentioned that she had ordered food with the money she had earned in the dungeon. However, Kaede kindly offered him some of her food, explaining that it tasted better when shared with someone. Toru agrees and accepts her offer while reflecting on how his life has improved since he and Kaede walked through the city. Toru contemplates the possibility of embarking on a peaceful journey with his charming companion and filling the void in his heart. The scene then switches to the moment Toru wakes up shocked to see that the Kaede has grown significantly. He asks what to do next, and as Toru looks at Kaede, he notices that her figure has become curvier and larger. He asked in wonder if he really was Kaede, questioning how this transformation happened. Kaede noted that her sudden increase in level could trigger rapid body growth. She had heard that when a person's level exceeded 20, their body would grow rapidly overnight to balance their increased strength. Tor thought about that information, but he found it hard to believe that he could change his own race when he leveled up, thus making him doubt it. With the rapid transformation, he was surprised to see the newfound beauty in the cave and asked why she was still naked, then urged her to put on clothes immediately. Kaede pointed out some clothes that were too short for her. Toru handed her a shirt and asked her to put it on. Later, Toru handed her a pair of pants and asked her to put them on too. They finally decided to go shopping for new clothes because Kaede was so excited. She went out and asked Toru about how to get there. After seeing her new clothes, Toru complimented her by saying that they fit her perfectly. He realized that her body had undergone significant changes, but she remained the same on the inside. He asked if she could handle another iron fan that was starting to tremble. In order to demonstrate his ability, he explained that this would allow him to perform 2 magic attacks simultaneously. As they walked through the city, Kaede was unavoidable to people, and they always considered her in their conversations, either willingly or by accident. They were impressed by her beauty and wished to have a slave who was also beautiful. He felt annoyed by the compliments given to her and the jealousy that arose among the people who saw her, like her Toru. Kaede promised to earn as much money as possible for her master that day, but Toru assured her that there was no need to worry. He mentioned that he still had money left over from when he killed the dragon, and asked her to focus on leveling up. He tells her he's already bought food and water for today's adventure. This news gets Kaede excited, and she can't wait to have fun as they enter the dungeon. But then a strange incident occurs. They are attacked by skeletons, but Kaede uses her magic to eliminate each skeleton and celebrates her victory. However, as they continued their adventure, Toru found that the battles became boring and even felt sleepy. When Toru asked if Kaede was tired, she denied it and explained that she usually got up early to clean the floor and prepare a place to sit. After deliberation, they agreed to take a break and lie down together. She enjoyed the scent of the head she was holding and felt very comfortable. After a short nap, he woke up and thanked Kaede for sleeping well. However, as soon as he woke up, he saw skeletons surrounding them and asked about what had happened. Kaede explained that the skeletons had attacked while he was asleep, but she had managed to defeat them. Toru was surprised that she managed to defeat them without taking a single step to offer to clean it up, and she gently wiped it clean with her tail. Toru has experienced a divine feeling throughout this time, feeling as if he is in a state of purity. She then inquired about her statistics. Toru admitted that he currently had no knowledge of statistics, but he assured her that it did not matter if she did not want to show them to him. However, Kaede insists that knowledge of statistics is important to her, and therefore Toru will show her his statistics. Then he reviewed her stats, and realized that she had all the necessary skills for a witch, especially the ability to increase strength, which was a rare skill that every witch needed to have. With no other options, he was forced to think that this girl was destined to become a big star. She then asked if the girl was willing to go further into the dungeon. The girl agreed and said that it was fine if Tor was okay with it. They continued their journey and eventually reached the 10th floor, where they were attacked by goblins riding on wolves. However, Kaede easily defeated them with her magic. Toru was curious about her magic skills and confirmed that her magical power was increasing faster than the amount he used when leveling up. Toru offered his help, but Kaede easily sent the goblins away with her magic spells. Toru felt sorry for the goblin riders as they were supposed to be strong opponents. The scene changed, and they were having dinner. Toru tried to imagine the flame in his mind. Then he opened his palm, and flames suddenly appeared in his hand. But unfortunately, it disappeared after a while. Kaede commented that it was quite difficult, and she suggested that Toru could improve with more practice. Toru took the time to think about the idea, feeling that he wanted to optimize his magical advantages. Toru feels nervous as Kaede is suddenly attacked by skeleton-cursed warriors and Minotaur. He warns her to be careful, but just in time Kaede casts a freezing spell that turns all enemies into ice. She turned to ask if Toru had said anything, but he denied it. He was still amazed that Kaede had reached level 200. He wondered why he was still worried about her. As they continued, they reached the 30th floor. Toru advised Kaede not to let her guard down, as to her surprise, there were no enemies in sight. Finally, they reached the glowing core of the dungeon. Toru remarked that it seems like they have reached the end. Kaede proposed that he touch the core, but Toru felt that it was thanks to his work that they had made it this far. She urges Toru to touch the core, but Toru refuses and insists that they just continue on. Toru touches the core while reflecting on his childhood dream of completing the dungeon. He wonders what reward awaits them afterward. At one point, Kaede called Toru to wake up. He opened his eyes and asked what was happening. Kaede asks him to look up, and he is surprised to see that the entire dungeon has disappeared because they have successfully completed it. He wonders where the dungeon went, and then Kei realizes that Toru has a ring that has never been worn before on her hand. She asks if this is their reward for completing the dungeon. As it turns out, Kaede also has the same ring on her finger. Suddenly, a notification appears congratulating them for completing the Luntada maze and instructing them to claim their rings. They received a reward in the form of the Ring of Disguise and were told that the second settlement was a dungeon. They were impressed by the power of the Ring of Disguise, and it was explained that it could hide their identities and provide bonuses that increased with the level they reached. They were both at high levels and realized that the ring was very useful. Toru suggested leaving there and looking for the exit. Toru picked her up and told her to get ready to jump, even though she was scared and convinced that they wouldn't be able to do it. Toru's single jump easily carried them over the hole. He realizes it's lucky because it's already midnight and urgent for Kaede to leave before things get complicated. After leaving the Luntata, Toru announced that they were heading to the town of Einerk. He admits that this journey may seem futile, but also notes that they have managed to achieve the things they wanted when they reached their destination. Toru commented that there seemed to be a thriving advanced civilization there, and referred to the creators of the civilization as a great race. Toru explained that their goal was to explore the ruins of the gods. He showed the reasons for the destruction and disappearance. Although this ancient civilization is still mysterious, some of its buildings can still be found. He explained these ruins as an attraction for humans, and since they were on a long journey, they should not miss the opportunity to visit places like this and enjoy gourmand food while sitting down. When asked if Toru had any plans for their party, he pondered for a moment and suggested the roaming brigade. He also adds that the number of people in their group might increase in the future, and the other members agree. Toru states that he is here to enjoy and explore the world at a leisurely pace. After a while, he realized that he had not yet asked about how Kaede became a slave, when a train passed in front of them and the bandits seemed to be following the train. Toru immediately yells for the train to stop. He and Kaede run to help the bandits on the condition that they must promise not to take lives. However, Toru quickly confronts one of the bandits and knocks him off his tracks. Then, Toru stood in front of the bandits and ordered them to stop the bandits' actions. With his skill, he uses his metal fan to blow air at the bandits, sending them flying. As the other bandits were mesmerized, some others prepared secretly to attack Toru with arrows. But Toru quickly deflected the arrows and fought back against the bandits. Confidently, he declares that the bandits are no match for them, and as the dust settles, they manage to defeat all the bandits. Suddenly, a beautiful woman emerged from the carriage and gave thanks, although she didn't know who they were, but she was very grateful for the help. She introduced herself as an adventurer when Marianta, the daughter of Count Roata, also introduced herself. Toru introduced his slave, Kaede, when Marianta expressed her happiness and invited them to visit her house as a token of gratitude. Toru hesitated that day when he said that he couldn't let Marianta go to such trouble, but Marianta assured him that everything was fine. When they arrived at the mansion, the scene shifted and Marianta welcomed them. Sebastian, the butler she had summoned, greeted them and asked if his father had come. Toru observed how close she was to Kaede. He admitted to himself that he had been saving up for her and was willing to release her if she wanted him to. However, he could not ignore the pain he still felt when he thought of Lisa. He hoped that someday he could forget everything and live a peaceful life without the need for slaves. As they continued their visit, they came across a giant statue. Marianta and she explained that it was built when her father was the ruler of the town as a young man, with the help of the townspeople. Her father was rather ashamed of it. Suddenly, the town begins to shake and Marianta becomes frightened, asking what is causing the shaking. Toru assures her that it's not an earthquake, but before they can react, the statue shatters and tentacles emerge from the ground, capturing people including Marianta. The tentacles sucked them into a large hole, and Marianta fell into it. The children cry for their parents. Urara rushes towards the hole to save Marianta, and Toru calls her name, signaling her to help. Toru asks Urara to wait, and they will go together. She hesitates because they are strangers, but Toru insists that if they want to find someone, they need all the help they can get. He added that with their combined abilities, they should be able to do it. Urara appreciated their willingness to help. They jumped into the hole, and it was dark underground. The next scene begins with Kaede casting a mantra light ball that creates a bright light above, allowing them to see clearly. Toru is stunned by the sight, while Urara explains that they are in an underground ruin. Toru is a bit awkward when he notices the slime on the ground, then asks if it came from the monster that kidnapped Marianta. She suggests following him to capture the creature, and Toru agrees and decides to take the lead. He asks Kaede to stay alert in the center and puts Urara behind him. Urara pulls out a knife as they begin to move deeper. In the dungeon, Toru manages to defeat monsters along the way. He asks Urara how deep the place is, and Urara mentions that she has been there several times, but only knows 4 levels. Toru expresses uncertainty about what they'll find, and asks if he can catch Marianta's scent. Urara replied that it seemed to be coming from the same direction as the slime. When they finally reached their intended area, a swarm of monsters awaited them. Upon seeing Toru and the others, the monsters expressed their surprise by stating that they never expected them to make it this far. They laughed as they observed the group and commented that humans were quite stupid. Determined, Toru decided to confront the 2 horn demons. He asked Cade to open a path for him, and he used his magic to create a wall of ice that divided the monsters into 2 groups, leaving them stunned. Kaede then asks Toru to hand the monsters over to them, and Urara requests that he guard Marianta. Toru agreed, saying he was counting on them. As the monsters rush towards them, Toru walks to the door and forcefully opens it. They are faced with a shocking sight inside. There is a giant slug monster carrying the people it has kidnapped along with a huge fat monster. Upon seeing Toru, the fat monster commented that the food for his pets had arrived. Toru looked at the fat monster seriously and asked if he was the monster. He confirmed himself as the one responsible for this monster. After that, he explains his motives. Toru asked the monster about his desires and reasons for attacking the city. The monster revealed that he was confident in not needing to explain, but regarded Toru as a good man. He wanted to share his story, and with a snap of his fingers, his pet caught Toru with its tentacles. As Toru found himself catching a monster, the animal explained that the city was connected to another city through an underground passage. He believes that understanding the actions of other cities will help. To defeat this country is easier to do by eliminating the city lord. Therefore, he proposed to take Marianta hostage to make the monster obey. The monster agreed, reasoning that when a beautiful girl was held hostage, the situation would remain under control. He said that they were lucky that no one lost their lives, and there were only a few minor injuries. In the circle of citizens, Marianta was happy to hear his story, and asked if it was her father who saved the town. However, Urara explains that it was Toru and Kaede who came to save her. Marianta kneels before them and expresses her gratitude, while admitting that it would have been very difficult to save herself alone. Humbly, Toru replied that it was okay. He sincerely didn't want to be honored as the community gathered around to thank him for saving Marianta and her possessions. Just then, Marianta walked up to Toru, hugged him tightly, and thanked him for protecting the people and the city dam. The scene then shifts to Marianta embracing her father, while Toru stands some distance away and comments that Marianta's father, as one of the Demon King's highest generals, is not strong enough to stop the monster. Toru is amazed when he hears that the monster is one of the highest generals. He asked how Kaede knew this. Later, she explained that the monster was mentioned as one of the Demon King's top 6 generals, although the weakest among them, making him quite important. You asked how powerful the Demon King was. Marianta's father approached and recognized Toru as the adventurer who had not only saved his daughter once, but twice. He expresses his deep gratitude and thanks Toru. Toru rather quietly replies that he's just relieved Marianta wasn't hurt. Marianta then suggested that her father give Toru a gift. Her father agreed, saying he would do whatever he could to show his gratitude to those who had saved his daughter. However, he mentioned that he wasn't sure what gift you would want as a present. Urara then stepped forward and whispered something in his ear. After hearing her suggestion, he said it. It was surprising that Toru had managed to defeat a demon who was one of the higher-ups of the Demon King, and she was confident that this would bring about significant changes. Toru noticed the food in the corner of Kaede's mouth and kindly pointed it out. She felt a little embarrassed, but thanked him for his gesture. Toru couldn't help but wonder that even though Kaede was an adult, she still had a childlike heart. He wished for her happiness, and then Mariana asked Toru if he would be free tomorrow. He also asked if they would get permission to explore the underground ruins. Toru confirmed that he wanted to go there again out of curiosity as an adventurer. He chuckles as he mentions the romantic appeal of the underground ruins left behind by a mysterious race. Marianta declared her intention to go with him, and Urara tried to warn her, but Marianta insisted that Urara accompany them. Kaide was worried about Marinta's safety at first, but eventually she disagreed. Mariana hopes Kaide will convince her that she won't be a burden, and asks Kaide to come along as a friend. Later, Toru requested that everyone explain the plan. Kaide and Urara would escort Marianta while he would lead and remove any obstacles. They agree to the plan. Then the scene switches to Toru and Kaide waiting for Marianta to join them. When she arrives, they are surprised to see her wearing armor and ask about her identity. As it turns out, it is Marianta who explains that her father asked her to wear the armor. Toru apologizes as it will be difficult for her to move in critical situations with that armor on. Marianta understands and goes to change. After returning with the sword, they entered the ruins and found that the first and second floors had already been explored. They decide to exit the second floor as the first room has been completely damaged and the rest is unexplored. Toru states that they will explore the dangerous areas today. However, Marianta's safety is paramount, so she will be the only one to enter the dangerous zone. As they started walking, Marianta asked about the name of their party. Toru responded by saying it was Manyu Brigade. She smiled and commented that it sounded like something typical of Toru. He then informed her that he had detected the scent of demons ahead, and Toru asked if he could determine their location from there. As he tried to assess it, he said it seemed to be a big mushroom-type monster. Toru ordered the rat to go and fetch something. They arrived at the location, where a mouse accidentally touched the vine and instantly perished with the mushroom growing on its lifeless body. After observing this, it was concluded that these vines contained poison that was extremely harmful to them. Then she asked them to deal with it immediately. Katie waited there while she descended further. She was worried, but Toru assured her that she would be fine with her level of 300+. He also asked her to be careful. Later, Marianne joined them and hugged him, pressing her breasts against him while asking him to be careful. He began to fight by kicking and punching the demons as they watched him in action. They commented on how excited he was as he continued to babble until they realized that the poison seemed to have no effect. He led her to believe that dragon men could be the most powerful in the world. He also found a key that unlocked the box nearby. He returned to the place and happily asked if he had found anything. He confirmed that he had found a bottle that appeared to be elixir and also a key that unlocked a box. He suggested that the box must have been nearby. Marianta expressed her surprise by saying that she had no idea there were more relics on this floor, and she praised Toru-sama for his ingenuity. Kaede expresses her anger, telling Marianta that she is too close to her master, emphasizing that Toru is her own master. Urara responds by advising Toru that as a man, he needs to maintain their decorum. Then they reach the second floor, and Toru asks what exactly this place is. Marianta explains that in theory, it's an underground fortress, but they don't really know what they're dealing with. Toru ponders whether this is an underground fortress that resembles a dungeon, and questions the nature of dungeons, given that dungeons from that time have completely disappeared. Marianta then asked if he could teach her how to fight, expressing a desire to learn a little since she was always protected by Urara and was tired of being weak. She assured that if she was injured, she could use her healing magic. Urara approached Marianta to gauge her awareness and express her relief that she was concerned, but mentioned her desire to be strong enough to help her father in the future. Impressed by her determination, he agreed. Having said that, Toru went ahead and did it. He believed his problem was solved. As Toru started receiving notifications about the experience he gained, he realized that when he reached the maximum level, he would be rewarded with a rank increase. Suddenly, a bright light appeared in the sky, revealing a new power that caught the attention of people from afar. They wondered what had just happened where Toru was. Some of the top jobs included the Master Tamare Thief Dragon Knight Rap and the Impersonator job. Although the Impersonator job looked ambiguous, Toru pondered whether this job was potentially risky. He also observed the word possession and felt he had seen it before. At that moment, Marianta approached Toru to ask if he was okay. She assured him and mentioned that she understood what he wanted, but warned him not to do anything. He intruded and then withdrew when she asked him. Toru finally acknowledges their request and asks if they can join the party. Toru initially states that they don't need to join, but then explains that their request is a way to express their sincerity. Finally, Toru agreed that they could join the party as they ventured deeper into the ruins. They faced numerous demon attacks, monsters crawling around the walls, and some of them were about to attack. Toru quickly swung his sword and dispatched all the approaching demons, ordering his companions to stay alert during the battle. Kaede easily defeated all the monsters using her metal fan and magic, while Urara used her martial arts skills to deal with the monsters. However, the demons kept coming, leaving them wondering what to do. Toru advises them to be more confident, given their current level of strength. He encourages them not to fear their opponents, and tells Marianta that if she stays calm, she can follow their tactics to defeat all the demons. When one of the goblins was about to attack Marianne, Toru quickly grabbed her arm. He destroyed the goblins in his hands and used their remains to fend off the other monsters. He confirmed her abilities and encouraged Marianta to remain confident. When a large spider appeared, Marianta went to defeat it in a skillful manner, finally managing to defeat the creature. They are excited to learn that they have leveled up, but Toru warns them not to rush. When Toru asked if it was time to return to the surface, Marianta wanted to explore some uncharted areas. They agree to continue their journey when they come to a dead end. Toru checks the wall and senses something strange. After tapping on the wall, he finds a hidden chamber and opens it with his fingers. Inside the room, he finds an unrusty sword and wonders what metal it is made of. Kaede catches Toru's attention and shows him some strange objects. Toru asks about them, and Kaede explains that she believes they are some kinds of egg, given their incredible technology. Toru noticed that they seemed to have been abandoned for a long time, and he doubted that they could still survive. In order to assist in the daily activities of their civilization, the objects were able to take on various forms. This suggests that they seem to have been stored for a long period of time, and could potentially be revived by injecting a large amount of magic into them. Toru was interested in trying to wake one of them up. These creatures joyfully shared in their excitement as they began to infuse magic into one of the eggs. The sun began to shine. Toru was worried because he knew he had poured a large amount of magic into it, but Ki reassured him by saying that the creature had been inactive for a long time. They continued to pour more magic into the egg because they believed time and might have a significant source of magical power. The impact of Toru's magical power was so strong that people around him felt the building tremble, while the space around them began to distort, creating a sensation as if they were standing in it. After a long period of preparation, Toru was finally ready. He grabbed his sword, realizing that his only duty was to complete this contract at the cost of his blood. As his blood flowed into the egg, cracks began to appear, and finally the beast rose. They were all surprised to see him, as he was a gentle and adorable creature. They were very impressed when Beast lowered his body so they could sit on his back, and he began to fly. Toru realizes that the creature seems to be able to carry people. Kaede comments on the creature's softness, and Toru suggests potentially using them for transportation. Kaede requests that they give it a name, and Toru suggests naming it Panda, which makes Kaede very enthusiastic as she finds the name beautiful. Marianta arrived and marveled at the creature's beauty. Kaede introduced the creature to her and explained that it was called a panda, and now it was part of their party. They all had fun, and you expressed excitement about what might be inside the other eggs. Then the scene switches to when they return, having managed to obtain many superior healing potions to strengthen the body. They also obtained an important key to examine the potion bottle. Using their judgment, they learned that the bottle contained the elixir potion. The Count and Toru were very surprised to hear this, as the Count stated that he had never seen the potion before, and it was not commonly sold. He suggested that if they went to the royal capital, they might find a buyer among the nobles or wealthy merchants. He also recommended selling it at the auction in the royal capital, where such auctions were reserved for nobles and wealthy merchants, and offered the opportunity to sell a wide variety of goods at high prices. Toru couldn't hide his amazement when he saw a gold coin for the first time in his life. He immediately called out to the panda in a hurry, appearing naked and complaining that she hadn't finished cleaning Panda. Toru was surprised to see her and immediately turned his gaze in another direction. Kaede raised her head and closed Marianta's eyes, while reminding Toru not to look at such things. Toru has no choice but to enjoy his face pressed against her chest, while saying that he will sleep well that night. The scene then shifts to Toru as he wakes up. He reflects on the past days where they explored the ruins, hunted demons, and raised Marianta to level 100. Both of them now have hero powers, and Toru has fulfilled his promise. When they went out together, they saw Marianta and Urara practicing their sword skills. Marianta greets them, and Toru comments that it seems like the sword has become a natural extension of her body. Marianta agrees, and expresses her feelings of strangeness as she does. Toru said that he could stay longer, but wondered if there was still a hole in her heart that he needed to fill with Phil. However, he told Marianta that he had received a letter from the Count and had to go to an auction. Marianta then expressed her jealousy towards Kaede. When Kaede asked further, Marianta explained that if possible, she would like to leave home and see the world on a journey. She was sure it would be a fun adventure. Marianta smiled, but Toru could see the hidden pain behind her words. She realized that as a princess from a noble family, Marianta ultimately had to get married, and she might not have the freedom to choose her partner. She would be protected like a bird in a cage until the time came. As they prepare to depart, Toru expresses his gratitude to them, but says that it is actually he who should be thanked for keeping his daughter alive. Toru is concerned about Marianta and tries to reassure her, asking her not to be sad and promising that they will meet again. Once again, Marianta was close to tears, but Kaede hugged her and assured her that we would never forget her or Toru. Marianta asked if they would come see her again, and they promised to leave town. The scene moved to Sane's party, who had reached the city of Luntata. Sane was stunned to find a large hole in the dungeon, and expressed his frustration, asking where the dungeon had gone when some adventurers passed by. They asked if he was new to the area, and mentioned that it had been a while since the dungeon disappeared. Sane recalled that the person had mentioned it was there a month ago. He was frustrated because this was the dungeon where he planned to make his debut as a hero, and now it felt like a waste of time. Sora tried to calm him down, saying it was okay, but when she touched it, Sane became angry and even strangled her neck. He struggled while cursing her, telling him not to touch her. The other members in the group told him to stop, but he became even more agitated and asked how Sora dared to pity him. Lisa stayed away to ensure that Sora would be safe if he let her go. People gathered and had a discussion about whether they should call in the army to deal with the so-called horrible individuals. Sane realizes that this is not good for him. His reputation is in question, and people are wondering if the effects of brainwashing have worn off. He considers taking action to address the situation. Then, Sane used his demon eye technique to instruct the girls to follow him. They went far away from the crowd and ended up sitting in a park. Sora suggested to Cyan that the kingdom of Armand would be a perfect place for their party to make a mark, and it might be better to return and start afresh with a new plan. When Cyan asked why she felt that was the case, she explained that their plan failed because they relied on the assumption that they would find the Holy Sword. She warned that they would continue to fail and that it was unsafe to continue without a new plan. She began to think about it and realized that if she returned without the sacred sword, he would have to kneel before him and admit his failure. He felt angry at the thought of such embarrassment, then considered other holy swords that he could acquire later. Even after crossing Armand and hearing about the town down the road called Einarch, he began to think about the possibility of finding a valuable treasure there. He asked why they didn't go there to look for the treasure. After hearing skeptical voices from his relatives, he finally got the support of someone who agreed with him. They decided to turn their attention to the city of Einark, where they were again surprised to hear that the ruins there had been explored and there was no more treasure to be found. Sane asked who did it, and the counter answered that it was the Manyu Brigade's party that they had completed. He cannot be ignored because of her beauty. He was deeply impressed by the natural beauty of her breasts and decided to become the prince's daughter. With his own demon eyes, he tried to seduce Marianta, but was surprised that it did not affect her. He felt confused and pondered why his efforts were unsuccessful. Then he received a notification stating that the target's power level was higher than what he had anticipated. His seduction was ineffective. He was stunned by this revelation because he couldn't believe that the girl's level was higher than Marianta's hero. He gave the Count a serious look, asking what he had just tried to do to her. He was surprised and wondered when she had figured it out. The Count then called out to him to remind him that had been chosen by the gods to be a hero. But he also mentioned that sometimes the gods favored those who had earned their favor through hard work. Sane was surprised and asked if the Count was suggesting that this adventurer was favored by the gods over him. Lisa continued to plead with him to leave before the situation got worse, but he still insisted on going to Armand for the holy sword. Lisa was frustrated and angry with the decision, but she could not vent her anger because he had already left. Meanwhile, Toru prepares to face the dragon horde in a separate place. Using her magic power, Kaede manages to defeat them. He summons Rosuke to attack, and a beast with a pointy head appears and pierces the dragon's bodies after they are all defeated. The animal returned to Toru, and he praised it, saying that it did well. After that, they took the test, and Ki said it was unbelievable that there was another animal in the second place. He also realized that the Rosuke looked different from the panda approved by Toru. He explained that the panda seemed more like a carrier while the Rosuke looked more like a fighter, further pointing out that besides fighting, Rosuke can also fly higher. Panda hears this and becomes angry, then asks if Panda wants to show his abilities. Toru asks if he understands what Panda just said. Panda confirms that it is difficult to explain. Then they observe Panda and Rosuke talking to each other. Just then, the two beasts flew high into the sky. After some time, Panda came down sobbing. Toru commented that it seemed like they were having a flying contest, and Panda could only fly up to 10. Toru then called out to Rosuke, who came down from the sky. Toru expresses surprise at Rosuke's ability to fly so far, and suggests that he can be used as a rope and tell Kaede if he is hungry. Toru tells Kaede that they should prepare a meal. He then tells Rosuke to return to his hand and calls out to Toru, stating that this time he will be in charge of preparing the meal. Toru is nervous and mentions that she hasn't been taught how to do it. She confidently mentions that she is good enough because Urara had taught her. Toru then said that he would trust her, and he got excited telling her to get ready for the delicious food. Kaede brings an apron and asks Toru what he thinks of it. Toru compliments her by saying that the apron looks vibrant, but she wonders if it looks good because she is worried about the dishes. Kaede then followed the steps for the first thing to do was to gut the devil bullfrog, cut it up, skin it, and then put it in the pot. She used scutellaria for seasoning and added some live mandrake. He repeated the process as Toru and Panda bathed in fear watching him cook and talking to himself. They wondered if the food was edible, as it had a purple color. Once the food was cooked, Kaede served it to a nervous but thankful Toru, while looking him in the face, and took a forced bite. He was stunned by the taste of the food, and said that it was very good. Kaede was happy to hear that. She hugged Toru, and said that she would do everything to help her master. This hug was more like a tongue-twisting job than a proper bear hug to keep it pleasant to hug, not arousing. She then began to smell Toru, and Toru wondered why she seemed to be in such a good mood. He tucked her tail and laughed, saying that it was so soft that it seemed like she was getting close to him. But just as Toru was about to lose himself, he felt a chill behind his back and heard Lisa's voice. Lisa said that it was only because she had left him and gone with Sain. Toru will find a slave for his pleasure and can do whatever he likes. She tells him that she will do whatever he asks. Toru realizes what is happening and steps back, saying that he wants more food. Cade assures him that there is plenty of food so he can ask for more. Toru wonders that he almost got carried away and realizes that while Cade might be okay with all that, he's decided not to treat Cade like an object. Then Cade's ears felt something, and when they turned around, they saw a swarm of monsters loudly saying that they had come there because of the smell of the food refinery. They ask if he wants to take care of them since they are bigger than wyverns. Toru refuses to take care of them, saying that he wants to see what Rosuke can do. He then ordered Rosuke to face the monsters alone. Rosuke went and managed to defeat all the monsters with his strength. Toru commented that Rosuke seemed very strong, and wondered if this was normal for an animal called Kaede, suspected it might be due to the blood of the master, and wondered if the master's gentle handling had a particular effect. Toru agreed to keep something like that in mind. Then the scene switches to when they reach the main destination city. Kaede was amazed to see the large building of capital. Toru made an impression on her. Armand is a big country with a wide variety of goods to buy. He mentions that there are many stores selling unusual items in many places. Kaede stated that it was a subspecies of dragon, and theorized that it might be afraid of human presence. She ran up and warned him to get out of there quickly, or else her slave would be killed. Toru really appreciated her concern, and asked if she wanted him to stop. Some men came by just then, and asked them to leave, saying that they would try to stop the beast. Those who witnessed them knew that they were the Saul sisters, who were famous as Rank A adventurers. Kaede asked him to let her freeze them, but Toru asked him to direct them. They immediately flocked towards the beast in an attempt to retain its choreography, but they struggled and believed they had it under control. However, the beast swung his head and made them fall back down. Fear gripped the people who watched the beast run towards the house, where a young boy and his mother looked terrified as the creature got closer. Toru decided to take matters into his own hands and advanced in front of the beast with one hand. He managed to stop the man, who was amazed to see him. The person controlling the beast then regains consciousness and wonders what happened. Toru called for the beast to calm down, and the person thanked him for his actions. They came to his aid and asked if he was okay. They also asked if he was a merchant and if he knew Jonathan Rockbell. Then the conversation turns to where they met Jonathan. He thanked them for their help. Jonathan introduces himself and asks about the letter Toru brought from Count Roan. Toru hands the letter to Jonathan. After reading it, Jonathan realizes Toru's actions in the letter and says that they are very significant. Toru agrees that he did what he believed was right. Jonathan comments that Toru is an interesting man and assures him that he will carry out Count Roan's request. When Toru asked about the nature of the request, Jonathan offered an explanation. With a smile, Jonathan said that he still could not reveal it. Jonathan also suggested that Toru dress more neatly. Toru felt a little worried and wondered about Jonathan's intentions, hoping it wouldn't come to that. Then, the scene moves to the next night when Toru and Kaede arrive in the capital city. Toru feels uncomfortable in his clothes, but he convinces himself that he looks really cool in them. The train arrives, and from it emerges Jonathan, who is overjoyed that Toru has arrived. Jonathan explains that it's not actually a bad place, but rather a location that requires caution. While talking to the people, they realize there is a secret meeting. Toru asks about Roan and Jonathan's request, and states that he needs to meet with certain people. Jonathan believes that this meeting will greatly benefit him. From now on, they decide to listen to what these people have to say. At this time, they enter a place where a servant greets them, and they wait for someone mentioned. He could guess the purpose of this meeting so far, but admitted that it was the first time he had met someone like that. The high-ranking King Armand arrived and sat in front of them. He stated that from now on, it would be an unofficial audience and behaved as if he had met them. He emphasized the importance of understanding this, and Jonathan agreed. King Armand revealed that the reason he only allowed Toru to visit him was because he wanted Toru to perform a certain action. When Toru asked King Armand what he wanted him to do, King Armand sought more specific details. Armand said that the imperial city is in danger, and he needs Toru's help to eliminate the death ants. Toru was shocked to hear this, and asked if they should both defeat the demon that could destroy thousands of soldiers. He also questioned why they couldn't use the forces from there. Armand fell silent for a moment, and then explained that their forces were already in a pathetic condition. He pointed out that the mute demon ants had the ability to devour nearby villages and cities within a few days, arming Toru with the information that some villages near their headquarters had been devoured, and once the demons started, they continued to attack vigorously. He emphasized that it was only a matter of time before they turned their sights to the capital city. Armand emphasized the importance of this issue and asked Toru if he could handle it. Toru had already agreed that he could do it. They were all amazed by his courage. Armand then said that if Toru succeeded, he would grant them noble titles in Toru's territory. However, Armand suggested that if he wanted to give him something, it should be money. Armand promises his payment after Toru completes his request and offers a price of 300 million, asking if that is enough. Toru replied that it was more than enough to finalize the deal. They expressed a desire to start as soon as possible and asked for someone to guide them to the lair. Armin asks if Toru doesn't really like the title of hero. Toru replied that he didn't like being the center of attention and wanted to enjoy their journey to the fullest. The next morning, a guide begins to lead them to the lair through a beautiful forest, but along the way, there are dead bodies of soldiers scattered everywhere. The guide explained that these were the victims of the previous scent troops and suspected that the ants were approaching the nest. He warned them not to be careless. Kaide expressed her concern about how dangerous the death traps were, and they were surprised that the guide knew about their danger. Toru wondered about education, as he sometimes seemed to be unaware of common knowledge. At that moment, a swarm of monsters approached them and asked if they were ant demons. Toru has confirmed that they have been besieged. The driver expressed concern about the number of demons they were facing. He also pondered whether it was safe to entrust the future of the kingdom to them. These young individuals recalled how Armand Kingdom's powerful army had been destroyed when the demon ants attacked. Toru immediately swung his sword and began fighting the ants, while Kaede used her magic to quickly defeat them. The guard was surprised at the power of the two's attacks, mentioned by Toru that it would be difficult to find him amidst the smoke. The guard responded with a sense of embarrassment and suggested using wide-area magic to disperse the smoke and provide a better view. Using his wind magic power, he created a tornado that cleared the road and then used his ice magic to freeze the ground for a better view. Toru complained that he had overdone it and apologized, explaining that it had been a while and he hadn't adjusted his magic properly. In awe, the guard took note of their abilities and then asked if it was okay for him to leave, as he was sure he would be more of a burden than a help. Toru agreed and thanked him for showing them the way. Kaede finds something similar to the hole in the center and shows it to her friend for inspection. She said that the hole looked narrow and might be dangerous to enter.